17. So anyone remembers what we discussed last Saturday? Tamogun, Rajogun, Satugun, we discussed on that, yes. We touched upon that. Yes, name of Lord. What about the name of Lord? But while eating, we first have to offer the food to the Lord, yes. Except as prasad. Correct. Anything else? Anything else, anyone?
We had that story of Naam Jap by Akbar and Birbal.
Akbar.
And we read one.
The lady who's chanting the name of Akbar, yes.
Yeah, and we had that one shlok from Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Yes.
That unless we control our belly and our until we are busy in satisfying our senses, we can't get Krishna.
Yes. Jivere lal se yei ikhiti dhai Shishno dara parayana Krishna. Anything else? Why should we not eat onion garlic? Okay. And okay. Anyone online? Anything else? What we discussed last week?
Yeah, we just discussed shloka 17.
Yes. So anything from the purport, anything that, any highlight points that you remember apart from what we just discussed? Anyone else? Rinku Mataji, I think there was some more. Charu Mataji.
My network was very bad, so it was on and off.
Okay. Krishna Garwal Prabhu, anything?
One thing I know that we shouldn't sleep too much, otherwise we'll miss on bhakti.
Yes. So we discussed the shloka is actually Yukta Har Viharasya Yukta Cheshtasya Karmasu Yukta Swapnava Bodhasya Yogo Bhavati Dukha. So if you want to be happy, one has to regulate one's eating, sleeping, one's recreation, work itself, and how by working for Krishna, right, we can regulate all of these things. That was the shloka, right? How even eating, we should eat Krishna Prasad. Working, we should work for the satisfaction of the Lord, like that. So if we do all of that, and sleeping also, the Krishna conscious person, he sleeps just so to maintain the body and soul together, as much as required.
Yeah.
So
and there was
yes.
And there was one important point in the purport about Thakur Haridas that he wouldn't even accept pradasadam, nor even sleep for a moment without finishing his daily routine of chanting with his beats 300,000 names. It's
Correct.
really an important thing.
Correct. So Thakur Haridas is one of the great acharyas. He was during the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about 550 years ago. So he had taken a vow to chant 3 lakh names of God. And he would not, that is practically 24 hours. So he would not even sleep or eat, not even eat before finishing his rounds, like that. So, yeah, there were some examples. Rupa Goswami also, we discussed how he used to just sleep 2 hours a day. That's it. So devotees, they're eager to serve the Lord. So they want to be awake as much as possible, but they're also conscious that they have to maintain the body, right? Otherwise, it won't be able to function the other day. So as much as rest is required, so typically 6 hours, 6 to 8 hours is good enough. And we discussed, if you sleep at 9, remember what happens? Yes. 12 to 3. 3 hours. And 3 to 6. 3 to 6 is 1.5 hours. So if you sleep from 9 to 3, your sleep is done. By the clock, you're sleeping 6 hours, but the rest is of 8 hours, 9 hours. Okay. So let's start today's session, today's shloka, 6.18. Yada viniyatam chittam
Yada vinita chittam
Atmani eva vatishtate
Atmani iva patishtati
nispriha sarva kamebhyo
nispriha sarvakame
yukta iti uchyate tada.
yukta iti uchyate tatha.
You want to take this? You can take this. Okay. Someone can read the translation, please. Want to read the translation?
Then the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines mental activity and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desire. He is well established in it.
Okay. So this entire chapter, like we discussed, when we were starting off this chapter. So first 9 shlokas, the Lord describes what? Venka Mataji, first 9 shlokas, the Lord is describing what? Okay. 6th chapter, right? You remember? No, you're on the page of shloka 18, fine. But 6th chapter, I think we had done a session where I had explained on the board. So what is the first 9 shlokas talking about? Anyone online? First 9 shlokas. What do they talk about? First 9 shlokas of 6th chapter.
The characteristics of a yogi.
Characteristics of a yogi. Okay. Not exactly. You're there, you're not there. Yes. Please go on.
Yama, Niyam, Asana, Pranayam,
Ashtang yoga.
Yes.
Dharana, Dhyana.
Ashtang yoga.
Yes. So we discussed, yes, so Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he describes 4 major types of yogas, right? There is karma yoga, right? There is jnana yoga, there is dhyana yoga, which is this 6th chapter, and then there is bhakti yoga. So we discussed the yoga ladder, remember? So to reach God, right, there is Jivatma. Imagine a ladder with 4 steps, right? So the last step is bhakti yoga, right? And Jivatma is at the bottom. He's not climbed the ladder yet. So at the bottom, when he approaches the ladder, that approach is called karma kand. Karma kand means I'm not connected to God yet. Yoga means to connect to Krishna, connect to Yujyate yoga, that which connects, right? So Jivatma is connected to the Lord through yoga. So karma kand means he's not yet connected. He's not started climbing the ladder. Karma kand means I just follow the scriptural rules and regulations for some benefit. नारियल चढ़ा दिया मंदिर में पास कर दो right, yeah, नौकरी दिला दो, whatever, that is karma kand, exchange, business transaction. Like that. So when one starts connecting to God, right, the first rung of the ladder is karma yoga, right? I offer some results back to God, back to Krishna. That's karma yoga. Or I do nishkam karma yoga. I do activities without any attachment to the results. Then the next rung is jnana yoga, right? Trying to understand the scriptures. Why these rules and regulations? Right? Somebody who's doing karma kand, he's like, maybe I should be a little more renowned and actually give something to God. He's giving me so much. Let me give something. So karma yoga starts. From karma yoga, after doing a lot of karma yoga, right, earning money, some results, or giving fruits of whatever activities like that, then he realizes ki, it's good, but maybe there is more to it. Let me gain some knowledge. That's Jnana Yoga. Trying to understand the Lord, trying to understand scriptures, what is the world, how it works, etc. Right now, you're doing practically Jnana Yoga. Nonsense. This Jnana Yoga is although part of Bhakti Yoga, but Jnana Yoga, right? And then the next is
Dhyana.
Dhyana Yoga or Ashtang Yoga. So Ashtang means Ashtang, 8 limbs. Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. Right? So that's what is discussed in the first 9 shlokas of this chapter. Krishna is describing what is Dhyana Yoga. Right? There is Yama, Niyama means rules and regulations, do's and don'ts. Right? And we discussed, we had an entire class, detailed class in that do's and don'ts. Then Asan, right? It's to make the body fit for meditation. Pranayam, breathing exercise, everyone knows. Pratyahar, right? Saying no to material things. Dharana, right? Fixing the mind, like capturing the mind and then fixing the mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. Dhyana. Dhyana means meditating on the Lord. And then Samadhi, uninterrupted meditation. So these are the 8 limbs of Ashtang Yoga. And Krishna explains how, the first 4 stages are the Yoga Rurukshu, which means, amateur stage of practicing yoga, whereas the other 4 stages are Yoga Rudha, right? From Dharana, Dhyana, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. These are all the advanced stage of yoga, like that. So in the yoga ladder, you could climb the ladder one by one, or you can take the lift directly, start practicing Bhakti Yoga. Right? That's what, we are trying to do, practicing Bhakti Yoga directly, like that. And Bhakti Yoga is like the superset, which includes all the subsets. Includes Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana, everything. Like that. So here, so first 9 shlokas, Krishna describes what is Ashtang Yoga. Then from shloka 10 up till 32, practically, he will be describing sadhana and siddhi, right? So if you practice yoga in a particular way, he'll describe what is that practice, and then he'll describe immediately what is the siddhi, what is the benefit out of it, right? So previous shloka he described yuktahara viharesya, right? He who is regulated in eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system, right? So he's giving how to practice yoga system by regulating our eating, sleeping, recreation, etc. And then he is again immediately giving the result. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. So who is established in yoga? One who has disciplined the mind like this. And thereby he is situated in transcendence. Transcendence means beyond the 3 modes of material nature. 3 modes we discussed last time. Sattvagun, Rajagun, Tamagun. So one who rises above these 3 modes. These 3 modes at the end of the day are shackles, right? There is a nice picture in Bhagavad Gita itself. Let me see if it's here. One who is disciplined in his mental activities. So there is this image. See if you can see this, right? You can see these are the 3. Yeah, you can pull it up. These are the 3 modes of material nature, right? There's Krishna, and just below that there are 3 modes of material nature controlling the jivatmas below. You can see this. Yeah. So these 3 modes of material nature is nothing but goodness, mode of goodness, right, which is in yellow, mode of passion, which is in red, and mode of ignorance, which is in blue, right? So, sorry, what? You don't understand. Fine, I'll explain. I'm explaining. So, we are actually controlled by these 3 modes. Durga Devi, right? Her name is Durga. Durg means fortress, and Durga is the jailer of the fortress, right? So she's the jailer. She's the in charge of the material world. So, and she carries a Trishul trident, right? So those 3 points of the trident are mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun. Right? And her policy is tit for tat. Every action, equal and opposite reaction. Right? You do this, you get this. That's how Durga Devi functions. Right? So the 3 modes of material nature, basically any activity you do, if you are existing in the material nature, you are influenced by the 3 modes of material nature. Right? It's just like those strings. So say for example, you are someone who gets up early in the morning, right? Does some exercise. You're someone who likes to keep yourself clean, eat in a very regulated manner, right? Sleep very limited, as much as required, etc., etc. So this is characteristics of mode of goodness. Characteristics of mode of passion: everything extra, everything more. I want more and more and more and more, right? Too much sweet, too much tikha, too much khatta, right? These are the dishes mode of passion people would like, right? Too much work like donkeys, mode of passion, right? Work is worship for them, like that. And right, they would want to go to any lengths to satisfy their, insatiable desires. Right? Desires are like a fire. If you pour more and more ghee on top of fire, what will happen? Kam hoga, badega, right? So that's mode of passion. You're pouring more and more ghee, and the fire, the desire is even aur chahiye, right? So and that's what you see. You may think, Bhagwan bas 20 crore rupees de do, main khush hu. I won't ask you of anything else, right? You may think like that. 2 crore, ठीक है. Yeah, 90% discount दे दिया मुझे. So 2 crore रुपए दे दो, I'm happy, right? I won't ask you of anything else. But once you get it, right, you'll be wanting more. You'll be struggling. You'll be working more hard. Then there'll be a next goal immediately, right? अरे अभी तो ये चाहिए, please ये दिला दो बस, right? And that's how we go on and on and on. And guess what? The richest person in the world is also not satisfied. I was reading an article. It's the greed. It cannot be satisfied. They want more and more and more and more.
Like the Reliance, they are now in so many fields.
So I was reading Jeff Bezos, right? So he's super aggressive, and his brother-in-law पे उसने case किया for I think he had done some there was something missing of $1 million. Now $1 million is like 25 paise for us. Comparatively similar amount for Jeff Bezos, right? If one of your relatives pick up 25 paise from your house, what will you do? Right? ठीक है, right? Who cares? I'll give you one rupee instead of 25 paise, 10 rupees instead of 25 paise, right? That's what you'll say, correct? But this Jeff Bezos, he has filed a court case and is still fighting that court case. Imagine, right? Which means he's not settled in his mind, right? Who would do that, right? You would not do, right? To a relative, ठीक है यार, 25 पैसे उठा दे, क्या फर्क पड़ना है यार, right? But he is fighting a court case. So imagine the state of mind. So even they are not satisfied; they are having more and more greed. So yeah, that's mode of passion. Mode of ignorance is, lazy. Sleeps for 12 hours a day, right? Or eats more than necessary, then smokes, drinks. That could be multiple things. Mode of ignorance. So it's not that we identify, like you just laughed. You sleep more than whatever. But so throughout the day we can be in different modes, right? Different modes at different times. Even the times of the day is divided in different modes. Like early morning, Brahma Muhurat, right? 4:30 to say 6 o'clock or sunrise. It's called Brahma Muhurat. That's the time in mode of goodness. In fact, up till 7, it's time of mode of goodness. From 7 to 10, it's mode of passion, like that. So every 3 hours, the modes change, right? Even the day is divided like that. Even the food you eat can be in mode of goodness, ignorance, and passion, like we just discussed. Even every activity which you do, right? Somebody may be giving charity. Charity to achhi baat hai, right? But the same charity can be given in the mode of goodness, in the mode of passion, in the mode of ignorance. One can give charity to purely help someone. That's mode of goodness. One can give charity for name, fame, and glory. Arey, mera naam wahan pe board pe aana chahiye. Mode of passion, right? Somebody can give charity, out of ignorance to some random person. I'll give funding to terrorist organizations. Charity in mode of ignorance, right? So like that. So yeah, we were discussing mode of 3 modes for what? I forgot. Yeah, so one who disciplines his mental activities, right, and transcends the 3 modes, he's well established in yoga. Well established in yoga means he is a candidate to connect to God. Well established in his connection to God, like that. Let's read the purport. The activities of yoga, 6.18. The activities of the yogi are distinguished from those of an ordinary person by his characteristic cessation from all kinds of material desires, of which the sex is the chief. So a yogi, you can identify who is a yogi. So here the characteristic is described that he is not interested, or he stops all kinds of materialistic activities. He's not interested in material desires, essentially, right? Of which sex is the chief. A perfect yogi is so well disciplined in the activities of mind that he can no longer be disturbed by any kind of material desire. Now here we are talking of a perfect yogi. We are not perfect yogis. So, right, a perfect yogi is so well disciplined in his activities of mind that he can no longer be disturbed by any kind of material desire. So no matter what temptations come in front of him, he can be unaffected. How he can be unaffected? Let's read up further. This perfectional stage can automatically be attained by persons in Krishna consciousness, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So you can either climb the yoga ladder step by step and then attain perfection of being a perfect yogi, or you can simply practice Krishna consciousness or Bhakti Yoga and very easily attain this. How? Savai mana Krishna padar vindayor vacham si vaikunta gunarnu varnane karor hare mandira marjana disu shrutim chakara chuta sa kathodaye Ukunda lingalaya darshane dashau tad bhritaya gatra sparshenga sangamam grahanam cha tat pada saroja saurabhe srimata tulasya rasanam tad arpite Padau Harer Kshetra Padanus Sarpane Shiro Rishikesha Padabhivandane Kamam Cha Dasena Tu Kamayaya Yathotma Sloka Janashraya Ratihi. King Amrish, first of all, engaged his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Then, one after another, he engaged his words in describing the transcendental qualities of the Lord, his hands in mopping the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing of the activities of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the transcendental form of the Lord, his body in touching the bodies of the devotees, his sense of smell in smelling the scent of the lotus flower offered to the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulsi leaf offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, his legs in going to the places of pilgrimage and the temple of the Lord, his head in offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in executing the mission of the Lord. All these transcendental activities are quite befitting a pure devotee. So here's the example how we can attain that stage. Is the example of King Ambrisha, how he engaged all his senses, right? Like just we read, all his senses in serving the Lord. His desire is to serve the mission of the Lord. His hands in mopping the floor of the temple, his legs to going to the temple, his ears to hear Hari Katha, his tongue to glorify the Lord and taste prasadam or tulsi leaf like it's described here, right? So if we engage all our senses, right? Rishikena Rishikesham Sevanam Bhakti Ruttama. So Rishikesh is the master of the senses. Who's the master of senses? Yes. Rishikesh is another name for Krishna, right? And in our heart, we are residing. The soul is there in the region of the heart, and just next to the soul is Paramatma, right? So he's actually Rishikesh, the master of the senses. He is someone who is actually the master of all our senses. So if we use our senses in serving the master of senses, right, then that's Sevanam Bhakti Uttama. That's Uttam Bhakti. This transcendental stage may be inexpressible subjectively by the followers of impersonal path, but it becomes very easy and practical for a person in Krishna consciousness, as is apparent in the above description of engagements of Maharaj Amrish. So to attain the stage of yoga is very, very difficult, especially if you're following the impersonal path. Impersonal path means the Supreme, multiple, but the Supreme Lord is actually known in different features. Right? There is Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagwan. Brahman is, people think of God as some light, some energy, right? Without a form, right? So that's one stage of God realization. Then there is Paramatma stage. Oh, God is everywhere in every atom, in everyone's heart. That is Paramatma realization, second stage. And the third and the most complete stage is Bhagwan realization. God is a person, he's a personality, right? So someone who understands Krishna as a person, right? He understands the feature of Brahman, which is just energy, some light, is nothing but the effulgence of Lord's body. Paramatma feature is just one of the expansions of Krishna, who's localized in every atom and every living being, like that. So one who understands Bhagavan feature, he understands all the three, like that. So somebody who's following the impersonal path, it becomes very, very difficult for him to attain the perfection in yoga. Why? Because he is not able to engage his senses like a devotee. A devotee who understands Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can very easily start serving, doing practical service for the Lord. Like we saw the example of Ambarish Maharaj. His eyes are engaged, his ears are engaged, his hands is engaged. Somebody who's impersonalist, who thinks God has no form, what will he meditate on? Right? How will he use his senses? उसको तो एक जगह बैठना पड़ेगा and वो भी ऐसा पट्टी लगा करके मुंह पे कि मैं ना बोलूंगा ना कुछ करूंगा, right? Because everything else is Maya, right? But a devotee knows even Maya is energy of Krishna, right? Even this table or this laptop, it's Maya, right? It's made of matter. But when used in Krishna's service, we are using this to have a Zoom call and have others hear Bhagavad Gita, right? So the same Maya, energy of the Lord, is now being utilized in service of the Lord. So it's spiritualized. Right? Yes, you had a question.
So a few years back, there's a lady who was Brahma Kumari lady.
Brahmat Kumaris.
And then nice lady.
Ah.
So she always emphasized, you come. She forced me a lot. So one day I went. So she made me sit in her room and she said, look at the light at your feet. I was like, look what I was supposed to look at the light. But then I was like, nothing is happening. Like, what do I do? So she like, it will happen, come again. I went, I said, no, it's not happening. Then they started giving me the philosophy. Like, meditate, think about this one man within you, he is God. And I'm like, no, he's not God. He cannot be God. And there was back and forth. It's like, okay, I don't know, like, Krishna is God and we believe in Bhagavad Gita, everyone believes. And then we spoke and then I told him, I'm sorry, you cannot be in light. They switch off all the lights, it's dark and one bulb is on.
Point. Yeah.
And I'm like, that is a big thing.
Yoga class. Focus on this point. It's pointless. Anyways. So, this transcendental stage may be inexpressible subjectively by followers of impersonalist path, but it becomes very easy and practical for a person in Krishna consciousness, as is apparent in the above description of engagements of Maharaj Ambarish. Unless the mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord by constant remembrance, such transcendental engagements are not practical. In the devotional service of the Lord, therefore, these prescribed activities are called archana, or engaging all senses in the service of the Lord. The senses and the mind require engagement. Simple abnegation is not practical. So what these guys are doing is saying, no, this is not, this is Maya. This is Maya. This is Maya. Right? So neti, just rejecting. How can you live just rejecting? So it's like negative, like I was explaining last time. It's from negative to going to zero, but then there is positive as well. Right? The senses and mind require engagement. Simple application is not practical. Therefore, for people in general, especially those who are not in renounced order of life, transcendental engagement of senses and the mind, as described above, is a perfect process for transcendental achievement, which is called yukta in the Bhagavad Gita. Right? So if you want to achieve perfection, just use all your activities, senses, in service of the Lord. That's it. You don't have to, give up, just give up. Frustrated everybody.
We can have pizzas, we can have everything. Just offer and
Yeah. So what happens is even the so-called sannyasis in the impersonalist path, some may be genuine also, but some may be internally renounced through some practice. But most of them, majority of them, they cannot sustain that renunciation. They will have to do something or the other, right? Kitna koi nahi ye nahi wo nahi kitna karega, right? And internally, even if they actually externally reject it, the mind is still dwelling on the sense objects, right? And we'll in the second chapter, Krishna describes that, right? And Arjuna in this chapter itself later, he will discuss that how this Ashtang yoga process which you just explained to me is impractical, right? Krishna will start describing things, right? So yeah. What is a mode of charity when we give money to poor people in the street, on the street? Okay, yes. So that depends. Desha Kala Patra. There's a question like that on the chat. So if we give money to people on the street, what mode is it? So it depends on Desh Kal Patra, right? One has to be intelligent, use your intelligence to give the right kind of charity, right? So if there is a beggar on the street, but he's someone who's basically running a racket of all different beggars, and he'll take your money and go and smoke. So you are going to partake in that sin, right? Although you've not spoken, but you will get a portion of that sin. So it's very risky like that. So one has to assess, whom one is giving charity to. And the best is not to give money, but best is to actually carry some prasadam with you most of the times. So devotees, they actually, who is having car, they actually carry some prasadam in the car. They keep some prasadam in the car, so that whenever there is some beggar, they can give out some prasad. Yeah, if there is nothing, then what I practice at least is, and of course I assess, is this someone wearing some decent clothes and giggling, laughing, and trying to just get money to have some 10 different packets of peppy or something, right? Or is it someone genuinely in need? So if I find someone genuinely in need, I would ask them at least to chant Hare Krishna before handing off some money. So that's how you are actually benefiting the person materially as well, plus spiritually, because the reason they are there, the reason that they are in such a position of begging is because of their bad karma. And just one name of Hari is so powerful. It can actually save them from the greatest danger, right? Prayate Mahato Bhayat, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? So even a little advancement on this path can save one from the greatest danger. And the greatest danger is to fall into animal species. Greatest danger is to actually, take a tour of Yamalok. हमको ऐसा लगता है हाँ कुछ नहीं है, right? But it's terrible. Even taking a birth again is so terrible, right? I have described it several times, but for sake of our newer audience, I'll describe it again, right? So we are having 7 kinds of miseries. So there is birth, right? We all have to take birth, right? And then there is death, right? Which is so painful. And we'll describe each of them. And there are 2 exciting things in between: old age and disease, right? Disease. And then apart from this, there are 3 more miseries on top. There is Adi Daivik, miseries caused due to natural disasters, right? Adi Bhautik, right? Miseries caused due to other living entities, right? Mosquito biting, neighbor fighting, right? Terrorist attacking, right? Your boss shouting, all of that. Miseries caused due to other living entities. Then Adi, what is that? Adi Daivik, Adi Bhautik, Adhyatmik. Miseries caused due to one's own mind and body. Yeah, anxiety, stress, depression, all of this. This is caused due to one's mind and body as well. Body mein bahut sari cheeze ho sakti hai, disease, one part of that. So these are 7 different kinds of miseries we go through, right? So it's not a very happy place to be. So therefore the Lord actually labels this material world as Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. It's a miserable place which is temporary, like that. But how did we get here? What was I discussing before this?
Paramatma.
No, that was way earlier. What was I discussing before this misery thing?
Someone asked like why this okay.
Correct. You're addressing the question. Yes. So, so the reason they are in that position, right, is because of the bad karmas they've done, because of sin. So one name of the Lord, right, can actually save one from going to hell or save one from taking birth again. And birth, like, is also not a very good thing. मैं तो पैदा हो जाऊंगा, उसमें क्या है वापस, right? Or someone may say somebody eats non-veg. Like I asked someone, why are you doing this? You should actually give it up. It's terrible for it's actually poison for your spiritual life. And even materially speaking, it's not very good. It's like ठीक है, क्या होगा, Bhagavad Gita में बोलते हैं कि नया जन्म मिलेगा as a goat. It's okay. I don't mind. Like, okay, you don't mind, fine. Imagine yourself being tied with a rope on your neck and being dragged, to a dark room where you're placed on a stone and about to be chopped off. Right? If someone does to you right now like this, right, is that a good place to be in? Right? This is what will happen when every action equal and opposite reaction. Durga Devi is there to give you the results. Yes. Anyways, that's a different story altogether. It's okay. So every action equal and opposite reaction. So it's not a very easy thing कि हाँ चलो हम तो बन जाएंगे कुत्ते बिल्ली चलेगा किसने देखा है, right? No, it's a terrible place to be in, right? And somebody who's intelligent will plan not to get into that position. Correct. Birth is also not very. I have done some charity also. I've done some good work also. I'll be born as a human only, right? I won't get into lower species. That's not very good. I mean, it's better, of course, but it's not very good. So imagine yourself, right? अगर आपको एक गुनी में बांध दे अभी, right? And from one side we start supplying in that tight plastic bag, some urine, some stool, some blood, some pus. The bag is filled and you're surrounded with it. And then we hang you upside down, right? For some hours. No, for some days. Actually, for 9 months. Is that a good place to be in? There are so many insects inside which are biting you, and you don't have enough space to even pick your hand and scratch. Right? That's the position of the child in the womb. If there are worms biting, right? The child cannot even take his hand and scratch or let the push off the worm.
I also heard somewhere that the child cries inside, and when it's out,
Is that blast?
feeling of happiness, like
Achha.
finally I'm out, and
So what happens is in such sometimes somebody who's fortunate, right, and the child in the womb, he faints out of pain several times, right, out of so much pain, and it's just वो क्या बोलते हैं, so much irritation. I mean, imagine, right? हमको 1 घंटा ऐसा रहना पड़ेगा, हम पागल हो जाएंगे. At least I'll go mad, right? 9 months like this. He's in terrible pain and faints several times. So if the child is very fortunate, right? There's a bhajan by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It describes how sometimes he actually sees the Lord. If he is very, very fortunate, he is able to see the Lord, and then he promises that I'll take your name. I'll do your bhajan when I come out. But when you come out, oh, so sweet. Take this chocolate, this and that. You forget. You promise kiya tha. Right? We forget like that. So, like she said, there's a lot of happiness, right? People are overjoyed. Right? You're crying, but others are joyful, like that. So that's birth. It's not a very happy place to be. Right? No, this memory is for very fortunate children. if they happen to have just, out of, great anxiety, if someone is troubled and somehow or the other through some past, devotion, if they are able to remember the Lord, then they're able to experience the Lord in the womb, and, they promise and all that. Yes. It's very, very fortunate children only. Yes. The body of the child is like,
the worms are actually biting.
it's like the spices are like burning the skin.
Yeah, so luckily I read this when I was staying with Lavanya, and I had completely started. Though the urge was there, I already passed for this, but I didn't. And then it was very smooth.
So therefore, when the baby is born, there are so many rashes sometimes, boils, right? Okay. So that's birth. Similarly, death is described as, 40, 80,000 scorpions biting at the same time, or 40,000. 40,000 scorpions biting at the same. Sorry, 80. It's 8. No, 18, 40. It's 40. 40,000 scorpions biting at the same time. That's the pain somebody experiences during death. The Shastra says. Now, somebody will say one scorpion bites also, I'll die. Right? So why 40,000 scorpions biting at the same time? Like on your mark, get set, go. So jitna pain hota hai, utna pain kyun hoga? So actually, it's a mental pain. We are attached to so many things, right? Imagine I tell you, what is your favorite thing? What is your favorite thing? What are you most attached to? Coding? No, some object. Is it your laptop? Is it a house? Right? So anything you're attached to, imagine everything being taken away at one shot. So that's like so much mental pain. Right? Ek saath sab ja raha hai. Some people are attached to some other persons, right? So if you're attached to somebody, right? Not just one person, all your friends are going to be taken away at an instant like this. Right? So it's very, very painful. So people who actually commit suicide, right? People who commit suicide, right? ऐसा नहीं कि स्कूटर से जा रहे थे, हाथ टूट गया, अरे बहुत पेन हो रहा है, सुसाइड कर लेता हूँ. नहीं, it's a mental pain, right? Which is far more greater than the physical pain, right? Because of which they commit suicide. अरे इसने धोखा दे दिया, इसने ये कर दिया, वो कर दिया, right? The mental pain is far more greater, right? Because of which people actually commit suicide. What stage, what happens? Yeah. It describes how fifth night, Panchratrena Budbudam, right? That's the description of the child in the womb, right? Fifth night, there is a bubble formation. And as per modern science, it's between fourth and the sixth day. They don't know exactly when. Bhagavatam gives fifth night. And this was a class given by a doctor to us. Okay. Yeah. So therefore, the people in general, especially who are not in renounced order, transcendental engagement of senses and the mind, as described, is perfect process for transcendental achievement. So any other thoughts or questions on this? Otherwise, we go to the next shloka.
What qualification? I mean, who's the impersonalist? So, like, is there a specific person who's impersonalist or?
Okay, impersonalists, there are two categories. So the question is who goes to Brahma Jyoti or who's an impersonalist? So impersonalists are of two categories, right? One is a regular impersonalist, somebody who has not, by good fortune received an understanding that God is a person or he's Bhagavan feature or there is Paramatma, like that. So he has a simple idea that there is some superior power who's running everything. There is some power and he has an understanding it's having no form, it's just some energy, some light, like that. That's the understanding of an impersonalist. Like the four Kumaras, the four sons of Brahma, originally they were impersonalists. Right. When they smell the tulsi from the lotus feet of Vishnu, that's the time, they had higher personal realizations of the Lord. Even Sukhdev Goswami, right, who's the narrator of Bhagavatam, he was a Brahmavadi. Brahmavadi means impersonalist. Right? He had an impersonal understanding. Oh, there's Supreme Lord, or there is some supreme power, right? But later, when he heard Bhagavatam, when he heard descriptions of the Lord, right, then his heart got attracted. So Bhagavatam, the narrations of Supreme Personality of God, Krishna, it attracts the hearts of even the liberated personality. He was liberated in Brahman, right? Impersonal liberation. He was a Jivan Mukta. From day one, he was liberated. But then he was attracted by the slokas of Bhagavatam, by the beauty of the Lord, by the merciful nature of the Lord. Two slokas primarily and other slokas as well, right? So then he inquired and he learned from Vyasdev the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, right, which is filled with narrations of how the Lord is, who is God, and what does he do, right? So first 9 cantos, who's God, right? So different pastimes of devotees. And the 10th canto then describes what does he do, his activities and pastimes in Golok or in Vrindavan. So impersonalist is one kind is that, right? Just doesn't know or haven't had the fortune of understanding the personal feature of the Lord, right? And then there are other categories of impersonals who are Mayavadis, right? Mayavadis are actually averse to the idea of God, or even they're actually envious of the Lord in one sense, because they want to merge into the existence of God and become God, right? सुना होगा भगवान में लीन हो जाना है और भगवान बन जाएंगे and all of that, right? So you can never become God. All you can impersonal liberation means you actually go and become a speck in the Brahma Jyoti. You still maintain your individuality, not that you lose your individuality. You still maintain your individual identity, but you're just there doing nothing. And you cannot remain there for long because the very nature of the soul, right, is Satchit Anand, right? Full of, it's eternal, full of knowledge and happiness, and it needs activity, it needs engagement, like that. Okay, should we read the next sloka? Is that okay? Mayavad, so somebody who's, they're blasphemous, right? Blasphemous means they will completely reject the idea that there is any form of the Lord. So, like Sukhdev Goswami or even the 4 Kumaras, they were not rejecting. When they understood there is a form of Lord, they actually accepted immediately. That's one, right? And they were not insulting the Lord or blasphemous to the Lord, saying that ये तो sentimental लोग हैं, भगवान का कोई आकार नहीं है, रूप नहीं है. They're not rejecting the Vedas, right? The Mayavadis are actually the Sharirika Bhashya is actually the commentary by Shankaracharya is actually describing how the personal worship of the Lord is just a means to actually attain the impersonal. Now we know why Lord Shiva came as Shankaracharya and deceived the impersonalist, right? But Bhagavad Gita clearly describes, chapter 12 describes how Arjuna asked this question: what worship is better, the personal or the impersonal? And Krishna describes in the 12th chapter, I think from Sloka 8 onwards, he describes how the personal worship of the Lord is far superior to the impersonal worship. Somebody may just have an idea of God. There is God, but I have not seen, I don't know how he looks, how he appears. And like, for example, just to give you an example, although I'm not saying, but initially, say Radhanath Swami Maharaj, right? I'm not saying he's an impersonal, I'm just giving you an example, right? He had an inner calling, right? He had not seen a picture of Krishna. He did not have an idea. But because of that inner calling, he was searching for the absolute truth, searching for God, right? At the end of the day, he found, right? So that those could also be not exactly. I wouldn't say, because I don't know, what his idea was at that time. But there could be somebody like that who just have a general idea, or there is someone, or there is a power controlling everything, but I don't know what that is, right? So that's also an impersonalist. Mayavadi is someone who thinks Maya is greater than the Lord, right? Who thinks that I will become God. That's Mayavad, right? Oh, I am actually the Supreme Lord. But because of Maya, I am now experiencing all of this. Once I meditate and my Maya is gone, I will become the Lord. So, in one sense, what he's saying is the Lord comes under the control of Maya, which means Maya is greater or superior to the Lord. Therefore, Mayavad. Right? Okay, next shloka, 19. Yatha deepo nivatastho
Yatha deepo nivastatu.
nena gate sopama smrita
Niyate supamasmrita.
yogino yatha chittasya
Yogin yat chittasya.
yunjato yogam atmanaha.
Yunjato yogama natmana.
Anyone wants to read the translation? Yes.
Less place does not devoid, so the transcendentalist, whose mind is compelled, remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendence.
As a lamp in a windless place, the Lord is giving example. In a windless place, the lamp won't waver here and there. Similarly, a yogi whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendental self. Right? Transcendental self means he meditates and he understands his position as the soul who's part and parcel of the Lord, servant of the Lord. Purport. A truly Krishna conscious person, always absorbed in transcendence, in constant undisturbed meditation on his worshipable Lord, is as steady as a lamp in a windless place. Very straightforward. Okay. Okay, we'll do the next one also. Yatro paramate chittam
Yatro parmate chittam.
Yudham yoga sevaya
Niruddham yogasivaya.
Devatmanatmanam
Yatra chevat paramastanam.
Pasyanatmani tushyati.
Pashyanam atmani tustyate.
Atyamtikam yattad
Sukham adhikyam dikham.
Vigyayam atindriyam
Jnanam atindriyam.
iti yatra na chaivayam
Yeti yatra na chevatyam.
itasati tatvata yam labdva chaparam labham
Labdha chaparam labham
anyate nadikam tatha
evatikam tatha
asmin sthito na dukhyena
purna dukkena
runapi vichalayet
chalayati
am vidya dukha samyoga
yadukha
yoga sammitam.
samvitam.
Translation. One can read the translation, please. Anyone online can read the translation?
Yeah, I can read it. The stage of perfection is called trance or samadhi, when one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness and enjoys himself through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact.
So now the stage of samadhi is being described. In this stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, what happens? One's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga, which means the mind is focused on the Lord, not thinking of anything else. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in self. So, which means that in such meditation or trance or samadhi, it's not that you're not doing anything. Through the eyes of the mind, you're actually seeing yourself and seeing Paramatma in the heart. That's what the stage of Dhruv Maharaj was. So Dhruv Maharaj, he was actually, you must have heard of Dhruv Maharaj, right? Story of Dhruva. You have no clue about it. Huh? You heard? You've not heard. Okay. Oh, so Dhruv Maharaj, yes. Okay. So Dhruv Maharaj, basically, I'm forgetting the name of the king. Anyone remembers the name of father of Dhruv Maharaj? I forgot.
Her mother was Suniti.
Yeah, Suniti and Suruchi, the mother's names I know. Father's name I forgot. Anyways, so his father was, practically the king of the planet, and he had two wives, Suruchi and Suniti. So Suruchi was the younger wife. She was very beautiful and one of the favorite. Huh? Uttanpad, yes, Maharaj Uttanpad, right? So he was. Suruchi was the younger wife. She was the favorite of the king, etc. And Suniti, she was someone who's very, very chaste, very sorted in life, and very religious, very dedicated to the husband, like that. So her son, Suniti's son, was Dhruv Maharaj, and Suruchi had another son as well. So the king once was sitting on his throne, and he had Suruchi's son on his lap. So Dhruv Maharaj was 5 years old, and this son was obviously younger. So Dhruv Maharaj also, felt, oh, I also need to sit in the father's lap, and he was very nicely, happily, he was running towards the throne and wanting to sit on his father's lap. So immediately, as he was approaching the throne, Suruchi caught him and took him aside, like, to be able to sit there, right, you will have to die and take birth again. Pray to the Lord, pray to Lord Vishnu so that he gives you birth through my womb, and then you can sit there. Imagine the arrogance, right? You have to die, you have to take birth through my womb, pray to Lord Vishnu for that, and then you can sit there. So Dhruv Maharaj, he's a Kshatriya, right? Although he's 5 years old, and this is one of the features of Kshatriya, immediately very angry. Right? He was felt so insulted, and he went to his mother. He explained the whole situation. Like, what can I do? Right? I want to show her. Right? I want a kingdom bigger than this, bigger than my father's kingdom. So Suniti, who was very chaste and very devoted, very humble, she said, it's not possible. Your desire can only be fulfilled by Lord Vishnu. Nobody else can fulfill your desire. So Dhruv Maharaj asked, where will I find Lord Vishnu? She said, I've heard that he is found in the forest. Immediately Dhruv Maharaj left for the forest. Imagine, 5-year-old child left for the forest. And then in the forest, he was going from one place to the other in search of Vishnu. So anybody like that, there's a great transcendental spaceman by the name Narad Muni, right? So he's everywhere, wherever he, and not like, how he's shown in TV serials, it's not like that. He's actually a great, great personality. So immediately, he appeared in front of Dhruv Maharaj, and he first tried to test Dhruv Maharaj, like, hey, such a small child, what are you doing here? Come, I'll take you to your parents. I like to say so many things to him. Dhruv Maharaj said, if you can tell me where Lord Vishnu is, I am interested to talk to you. Otherwise, I am not interested to talk to you. Like, he was so determined. So looking at his determination, Narad Muni was pleased. And then he initiated him in chanting the mantra Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And he guided him step by step. And 6 months flat, Dhruv Maharaj was able to see Lord Vishnu face to face. 6 months. Right? That was his, the determination he had. Thanks, Prahlad Maharaj. This is Dhruv Maharaj. So 6 months flat, he was able to see Vishnu face to face. And before he saw, so he basically first started, chanting, meditating on the Lord, like Narada instructed, trying to meditate on the Lord within his heart. So he gave up in the first month. He was, just eating whatever would fall from the tree. Second month, he just took some leaves. Third month, he, stopped the leaves, just was on water. Fourth month, he gave up water also. Fifth month, sixth month, he gave up even breathing, like that. So when he stopped his breathing, the whole universe's breath was stopped because of the power of his meditation. And then everyone approached Lord Vishnu, please do something. And during all this time, Dhruv Maharaj was able to see Paramatma within his heart, and he was relishing the darshan of the Lord in his heart, right? So that's what is being described here. In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activity. He's not doing anything else. He's not thinking of anything else. But the practice of yoga, this perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self. He was able to see himself. He was able to see the Paramatma by the pure mind, and relish and rejoice in the self. So what is he relishing and rejoicing? He's relishing and rejoicing, seeing the Supreme Lord as Paramatma in the heart. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness. Right? Externally, somebody may say, "Kya re, kuch nahi kar raha." Right? But internally, he's actually, having so much happiness, boundless happiness and joy. Right? Realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from truth. Somebody who sees that can never depart from truth, can never go back to, garbage of the material world. In comparison, garbage. And that's what. So, Dhruv Maharaj was meditating like that. And then when he stopped breathing, everybody approached Lord, please do something. The whole air, why has stopped? So then the Lord from his heart, the same Lord manifested outside. And we darshan to Dhruv Maharaj. And when Dhruv Maharaj saw him, the senses, it's described in Modal that how it's very difficult. The senses have a certain capacity, right? Just like, I fill a glass and I keep filling, it'll overflow, right? So similarly, our senses have a threshold or a capacity, right? So having to behold the Lord, right, unlimited, it's very difficult. So he fainted again and again because the senses, they're like over flooded, cannot behold the Lord, right? Each and every individual sense went mad because it's like overflowing, right? So the eyes, the ears, the sense of smell, the Lord's smell, right? So all the senses are going wild, right? It cannot behold, it's fainting again and again. Then somehow some of the other, by the mercy of the Lord, he kind of, again gets up and, remains awake. And then he's speechless. He's completely choked. He is not able to speak anything, right? Because he's not experienced something like this ever, right? Having face-to-face darshan of the Lord. And then he wants to glorify, but he's not learned any prayers. Just a 5 years old, right? So then the Lord touches Dhruva with his conch. He has 4 hands. He's holding conch, disc, club, right, and lotus. So he touched Dhruv Maharaj with his conch on his head. So all the Vedic knowledge is imparted just by that touch. Then Dhruva starts glorifying the Lord, starts praying to the Lord. And what he prays for? He says, I was running after broken pieces of glasses. Right? He wanted a kingdom greater than the earth. Right? हम तो सोचते हैं अरे 1-2 करोड़ रुपए आ जाए. Right? He was wanting a kingdom bigger than the planet. Right? Not just the planet, actually his great grandfather Brahma, he wanted a kingdom greater than Brahma. Sorry, my bad. Right? Brahma is the in charge of the universe, practically creator of the universe. He wanted a kingdom greater than Brahma. So, and he's saying, I was running after broken pieces of glasses. Now I found the real diamond in front of me. Right? I no longer want any of that. I only want association of pure devotees so that I can cultivate the mood of devotion more and more. So that's the kind of pleasure or joy somebody experiences when he comes in touch with Krishna or his devotees, like that. So why would he care about anything else? All the other garbage, right? So one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth. Ek baar taste mil gaya, nothing else will, be sufficient. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj used to give an example. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj is Guru of Srila Prabhupada. He used to give an example. If you want to retain a servant, right? अगर आपको घर पे वैसा आजकल होता है ना नौकरी छोड़ के सब जा रहे हैं right? So olden days people used to have servants in the house, right? So if you want to retain a servant in your house, dedicated servant in your house, right? Feed him rice, ghee rice, right? Rice mixed with a lot of nice pure ghee. So the logic is that even if he goes away, even if you don't, if you don't pay him well, etc., and he leaves you, right? No matter where he goes, he won't have that same taste of ghee rice again, and he'll come back to you. Higher taste mil gaya to abhi, he won't be able to settle anywhere. 2800 रुपए का घी मिलता है तो कैसे? Yeah. No, I'm saying, anyways, take it. So once somebody has a taste of the Lord, he won't be able to go back anywhere. He won't, kuch acha nahi lagega, right? So he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising of material contact. And your mind is completely focused, enjoying, right? We were watching one serial called Meera, on the life of Meerabai, very nice one. So there, there is an entire episode which is basically how she was tortured and she was taken somewhere. And then she comes to the court and describes what happened to her. So what she's describing is, I fainted and then I was with Krishna. And, we were there in the Goloka and, we were doing so many different things. And suddenly, I came to consciousness. I don't know why I came here. I wanted to be there only. So while, physically or externally, she was, in a very torturous condition. But the devotee is always enjoying, in association with the Lord. Even in that unconscious state, she was, spiritually there with Krishna. Right? So nothing, even the external difficulties, they don't matter so much. Right? Rather, there was a time where she was fed poison. What is it? She was, and she was almost no, not fed poison. Actually, there was somebody who had controlled her, and she was almost like dead, right? And she was declared dead, and she was actually on the pyre, death pyre. जलाने के लिए उनको लकड़ी पे डाल दिया था, and spiritually she's there with Krishna, and then suddenly she's back and she wakes up, on that. So, and she's running, where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? Like that. So, she's constantly in that state, right? That trance, like that. So, no matter what externally happens, she doesn't care. Like that, even Prahlad Maharaj was constantly meditating on the Lord. He was thrown from a cliff, right? Imagine. हमको कोई धक्का देने right? And they were simply asking, don't chant Vishnu's name, chant Hiranyakashipu's name. Right? We would have loudly chanted Hiranyakashipu ki jai and ran. But Prahlad Maharaj didn't care, right? He was simply chanting Vishnu's name, and he was thrown off the cliff and was still chanting, right? And the Lord saved him. He was there was a mad elephant who was unke taraf bhej diya, and this elephant was running, and then the elephant noticed Prahlad Maharaj, and he stopped and he paid obeisances. He said, "I'm mad. I'm not so mad." Right? So that's how devotees, they're unaffected by the external circumstances, and they're always joyous. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. So we'll quickly read the purport. It's a slightly longish purport, actually. Wow. By practice of yoga, one becomes gradually detached from material concepts. This is the primary characteristics of yoga principle. And after this, one becomes situated in trance or samadhi, which means that the yogi realizes the super soul through transcendental mind and intelligence without any of the misgivings of identifying with the self. Hare Krishna. Without any misgivings of identifying with the self. Without any misgivings of identifying the self with the super self. Yoga practice is more or less based on principles of Patanjali system. Some authorized commentators try to identify the individual soul with the super soul, and a monist thinks this of liberation, right? The same thinking of liberation as I am the same Supreme Lord, identifying the self, the soul, with the super soul, that we are one. मैं merge हो जाऊंगा, I'll become Lord, etc. Right? That's what is being described here. But they do not understand the real purpose of Patanjali system of yoga. There is an acceptance of transcendental pleasure in the Patanjali system, but the monists do not accept this transcendental pleasure out of fear of jeopardizing the theory of oneness. The duality of knowledge and the knower is not accepted by the non-dualist. But in this verse, transcendental pleasure realized through transcendental senses is accepted. And this is corroborated by Patanjali Muni, the famous exponent of the yoga system. The great sage declares in his Yoga Sutras, Purushartha shunyanam gunanam pratishta prasavaha kaivalyam swarupa pratishtha va chitta saktir iti. So basically what is being described here is, the oneness, right? That I and the super soul are the same, right? The Atma and the Paramatma are the same, right? And we merge into the Lord and we become one with the Lord, etc. That is rejected even by Patanjali, because Patanjali is describing also a relationship between Jivatma and Paramatma, the super soul or Krishna, and exchange of transcendental love and pleasure, right? That's what is being described here. There's a reciprocation and there is pleasure within that reciprocation. The Chitta Shakti or internal potency is transcendental. Purushartha means material religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and at the end, the attempt of to become one with the Supreme. This oneness with Supreme is Kaivalyam by the monist, right? But according to Patanjali, this Kaivalyam is internal or transcendental potency by which the living entity becomes aware of his constitutional position. So here it is said that this oneness, which is being described, right? Four Purusharthas are Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, right? Char Purusharth hote hain, right? You perform Dharma, you satisfy material desires, and ultimately you want Moksha. Right? Dharma, you earn money, satisfy your desires, and Moksha, right? Get liberated. So liberation for a lot of them is merging into the existence of God. Here again, it's described. It's not oneness here doesn't mean becoming one with the Supreme, but oneness here means becoming one with the desire of the Supreme, right? That his desire should be our desire, like that. Whatever the Lord wants, we should carry out that. But according to Patanjali, so we read this. In other words, Lord Chaitanya, in other words of Lord Chaitanya, this state of affair is called Cheto Darpana Marjanam, becoming aware of constitutional position, right? Cheto Darpana Marjanam, or clearance of impure mind of the mirror of the mind. This clearance is actually liberation, or Bhava Maha Davagni Nirvapanam. The theory of nirvana or preliminary, also preliminary, corresponds with this principle. In the Bhagavatam, this is called Swarupena Vyavasthita, right? So this means, ye bahut sare Sanskrit word hai here. What does this mean really? Is liberation actually means Swarupena Vyavasthita, right? Being established in one's constitutional position. So imagine, right? Santosh, right? Sachin, sorry, my bad. Sachin. So Sachin takes part in a drama, right? And he suddenly becomes like a king in the drama, right? Playing some drama, becomes a king in the drama, right? So when he's playing the drama, right, liberation from that whole drama scene means he has to then come back to, his previous state. Okay, I'm actually Sachin, I'm not the king, right? Realization that you're not the king, but you're Sachin, right, is liberation from the entire situation of that drama, the stage, correct? You're liberated from the stage, the theoretical stage, and now you're back in your life as Sachin. Similarly, for us, liberation means being re-established in our original position as servant of Krishna. Right? Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishna Nityadas. We are servants of the Lord. So when we re-establish ourselves, with an understanding that I'm servant of the Lord, then we liberate. And that liberation can happen even while living. Right? When you have a realization, I'm not this body, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not somebody's son, I'm not somebody's parent, I'm not somebody's father, mother, wife, whatever, right? I'm servant of the Lord. When you have that firm understanding and realization, not just understanding, realization, and when you start acting like that, that is when you are Jivan Mukta, liberated while living in the body. Let me finish this properly, then that's all too late. Right? After nirvana or material cessation, there is a manifestation of spiritual activities or devotional service. So yogi is practicing very hard, right? He's practicing very, very hard, trying to attain liberation from the material bondage, which means he is trying to he works, through yoga ladder step by step, and might take lifetimes for him to get to a point to realize that actually I am not this body, I am the soul, and soul is servant of the Lord. And as soon as he is liberated, right, as soon as he is liberated, he needs to now start acting in that relationship with the Lord, right, as servant of the Lord, right? And that's what is being described here. Liberation from this material infection does not mean destruction of original eternal position of the living entity. Patanjali also, okay, read this, sorry. So liberation literally means that now I know that I am servant of the Lord, and now I start serving the Lord, right? That's real liberation. So a devotee, that's bhakti yoga. Ultimately, you have to come to bhakti yoga, right? In the yoga system, as described in this chapter, there are two kinds of samadhi: sampragnata samadhi and asampragnata samadhi. When one becomes situated in transcendental position by various philosophical researches, is said to be achieved sampragnata samadhi. In the sampragnata samadhi, there is no longer any connection with mundane pleasure. For one is then transcendental to all sorts of happiness derived from senses. The yogi is one situated in transcendental position. He's never shaken from it unless the yogi is able to reach this position. He's unsuccessful. Today's so-called yoga practice, which involves various sense pleasures, is contradictory. A yogi indulging in sex life, intoxication, is a mockery. Even those yogis who are attracted by siddhis, perfections in the process of yoga, are not perfectly situated. The yogis are attracted by the byproducts of yoga. They cannot attain the stage of perfection, as it is stated in this verse. Persons therefore indulging in the make-show practice of gymnastics feat or siddhis should not aim for yoga. Should know that the aim for yoga is lost in that way. So there are yogis who are trying to, show some gymnastics, attain some siddhis. That's not really yoga. Their goal is lost. They are now, a crowd pleaser. That's it, right? Or somebody who's attached to sense gratification is not a yogi, right? The best practice of yoga in this age is Krishna consciousness, which is not baffling. A Krishna conscious person is so happy in his occupation that he does not aspire for any other happiness. There are many impediments, especially in this age of hypocrisy, to practicing hatha yoga, dhyana yoga, jnana yoga. There is no such problem in executing karma yoga or bhakti yoga. As long as the material body exists, one has to meet the demands of the body, namely eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. But a person who is pure bhakti yogi, who's in pure bhakti yoga or Krishna consciousness, does not arouse the senses while meeting the demands of the body. Rather, he accepts the bare necessities of life, making the best use of the bad bargain, and enjoys transcendental happiness in Krishna consciousness. He's callous towards incidental occurrences such as accidents, diseases, scarcity, even the death of most dear relative. But he's always alert to execute his duties in Krishna consciousness or Bhakti Yoga. Accidents never deviate him from his duty, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Agama paino nityastam sutikshasya bharata. He endures all such incidents, occurrences, because he knows that they come and go and do not affect his duties. In this way, he achieves the highest perfection in yoga. So I'll end with a story, like continuation of the story which I previously said. So again, the example of Meenabai, right? So her husband, King Bhojaraj, right? He was very, very, actually Meera had taken a vow of, not even touching any other person like that, because she had been married to Krishna. So King Bhojiraj, he accepted her as his wife just to serve her, right? So that she doesn't have to be with someone else, who may not respect her vow like that. So he had also taken a vow that I would never touch her in my life like that. So once she was actually, she was in trance in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, and Srimati Radharani had lost one earring, and she was one of the maid servants who was trying to find the earring. They were looking at different places, right? And while trying to search, right, she's in that trance. She's searching, and she's physically also moving. She was about to, and that time King Bhojaraj had just come from a battle, and he was severely wounded, right? Almost like about to leave his body. He was severely wounded, and he saw that she's searching something, and in her trance she's about to like jump out of the window, right? So immediately he went and caught her, right? And she said, "Oh," and her trance broke, and she's like, "Oh, you've touched me. You broke your vow," like that. Like, fine, I'm anyways giving up my body. So for this, I've broken the vow. I will give up my body like that. But then, since his entire life had served a devotee, right? Meera started praying for him, and the Lord actually gave darshan. Radhakrishna came and gave darshan to King Bhojaraj. And she was in ecstasy because King Bhojaraj went back to the home. And then she complained, "Arey, you took him, you're not taking me." So Lord, he replied that he served you, right? Anyone who serves my devotee has the first claim to my abode, more than the devotee himself, right? Somebody who serves the devotee, he's having the first claim like that. And this is like shown in many other pastimes. There was another devotee by the name, what was that place we went to? South India? No, Ramachandra. What is that place? I forgot the name. Very famous place of Ramanujacharya. Varadaraj temple hai wahan pe. What is that place? Anyone knows?
Was it Kanchipuram, Prabhuji? Kanchipuram?
Yes, Kanchipuram. Thank you. Kanchipuram. So there is a devotee by the name Kanchipuram, right? And he's very famous. He's a disciple of, I think, Ramanujacharya. I don't know if he's a disciple actually. But he was someone who was speaking to Lord Varadaraj face to face, right? He used to speak to the Lord. And, a lot of people would ask so many things, and he would go to the Lord, ask them, and he would, give back the answer like that. So one day, one of the servants of Kanchipur, he asked, "Please, can you ask the Lord, when will I go back to him, go back to his abode?" So he asked Lord Varadaraj, and Lord Varadaraj said, "Yes. After this lifetime, he will come back to immediately after he gives up his body, he will come back to my abode, Vaikuntha." So Kanchipura, he thought, let me ask also, when will I go? So he asked, when will I go? So Lord Varadaraj said, I'm so sorry to inform you, it will take many, many, many lifetimes for you to come back. So he's confused. I'm talking to you face to face, right? And I'm actually helping. I'm so many people ask me questions, and I'm getting answers from you. How is it that I'm taking so many lifetimes? And this is a servant of mine. He's going just right now, right? So Varadaraj said, he's eligible to go because he's served Vaishnavas. He's serving you, right? He's eligible to go. You have not performed any Vaishnava seva. So it'll take a long time for you. So immediately, Kanchipura, he drops the service right there and then, goes out and decides to find some Vaishnava to serve. Now he's very famous, right? And, who will take service from Kanchipuram? So, he disguises himself, goes to one of his god brothers and decides to serve him in disguise. And once he serves, after some months, the god brother realizes, Kanchipura. So I should be serving, he's serving me. So then he goes back and like Lord Brother says, now you're eligible, now you can come after this life. So that's the glory of serving devotees. And that's how easily someone can achieve perfection in spiritual life by practicing Krishna consciousness or Bhakti Yoga. All right, we'll stop here. It's already 12:56. Any questions, any reflections? Any questions, any doubts, or anything you liked which you're taking back? Anything that you... Okay, what do you like about them? Which story you liked the most? What about it you like? Okay. Yes. Being a servant instead of a master. So that's the difference between the spiritual world and the material world. So Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, Krishna describes Urdhva Moolam Adha Shakham. Right? So the material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. So just like there's a tree by the lake, you see the reflection of the tree where the roots are up, the branches and leaves are down. It's lopsided, completely upside down. So the material world is upside down, reflection of the spiritual world. So here everyone wants to become boss, right? Boss ka boss. Which means you're going down and down and down. In one sense, spiritually you're going down, right? In the spiritual world, it's other way around. If you become servant of the servant, you are like raising in consciousness like that. Okay. All right. Any other thoughts or reflections? Yes.
So, majority of the people in the world are so engrossed in their activities. अगर कोई liberated होना भी चाहे तो majority बोलता है are you abnormal? That's for you. It's not for us. So we don't feel enough motivation to come out of the disorder.
Yeah, we want to remain the king, not come back to reality, right?
But rather than using the senses,
Yes.
so we are not at a time, but we will cultivate one sense towards
Engage our senses as much as possible in sources. Yes. Anything else? Any takeaway?
practice that we've done.
All right. Anyone online? Anything? Any reflections?
I think Prabhuji, everything is good. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the nice class.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Hare Krishna. We'll stop here.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Okay, before everyone leaves, sorry. Announcement. Those who want to join to Vrindavan, please, let us know as soon as possible. I have already shared in another group, some details about accommodation, etc. So anyone who wants to join can leave a message. I'll open the group so that you can actually leave a message, right? Or you can just put in the chat also. Those who are here who want to join the Vrindavan Yatra, please let us know as possible. Hare Krishna. We'll end with a short kirtan.